So, is this the best ORK Codex ever? Is this the best codex so far of 10th edition? Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. As always, my name is Jay, and this is my better late than never review of the new ORK Codex, which is now out for 10th edition. This is an incredible codex, and I want to talk a little bit about today about my first impressions. I've played a few games now, what I think is the strengths, the weaknesses, what I miss. Of course, before I begin, once again, a huge thank you to today's sponsor, Into the AM. They make some incredible clothing, all types of clothing, but I love their graphic tees. I'm currently wearing the Summit Solace tee. I absolutely love it. I love the way it feels. I love the way it looks. I love the way that it fits. It's just amazing. So a huge thank you to Into the AM for sponsoring this video. Please go check out Into the AM, link in the description below, and use the coupon code JNIGHT for 10% off. I know you're gonna love these t-shirts as much as I love this new ORK Codex. They're awesome. This is awesome. Everything's awesome. Yes. Thank you, Into the AM. So let's begin my discussion on this ORK Codex. I absolutely love this codex. I personally believe that this is the best codex that the Orks have ever had, for several reasons. Not only is it competitive, more importantly, it's fun and has a lot of randomness, which I like to refer to orkiness as randomness. There's a lot of fun ways to play this army, there's a lot of competitive ways to play this army, and a lot of it involves randomness and orkiness, which I really love because it makes the games fun. It's such a fun codex to play. It's such a fun army to play, as all my fellow Ork players will attest. Orks have gotten the short end of the stick a couple times. Like I played Orks originally back in 2nd edition, Rogue Trader era. Quit for a while, came back at the end of 4th. Back then it was like Knob Bikers were really taking over the scene because people kind of figured out that you could create the Knob Bikers and combine that with all the wound allocation shenanigans back in the day where you make a Knob Biker with a claw and a boss pole and then the Wah banner, and you just make each knob different so you can allocate a wound each and keep them alive for a long time. They would hit hard, they would move fast, they would own the tabletop. I've always loved playing, my favorite types of Ork lists are always the Green Tide. I used to love playing the Green Tide, I still do. The Green Tide list where it's just so thematic to run 100, and back then I used to run up to 180 boys because I have 180 boys, 90 Slugga Choppa, 90 Shuda. Or my favorite list would probably be the Kill-A-Ken or the Walker lists. I love my Grot tanks, but I love the Ken Walker list, the Dread list, the Dread Mob mentality. I've always loved those. If you see my old battle reports at Miniwargamer or on my own content, I always used to run those lists. I love them so much. That being said, some editions it was very hard to be an Ork player. 6th edition was particularly annoying, if I remember correctly. It was 6th, where that was when Overwatch was introduced, and because of the thematics, you always removed the closest models to the shooting unit. So when they died, you didn't get to choose, you had to remove the closest. So you're an Ork player like me. You're running the Green Tide, like I am. 180 boys, you take your time, you put them on the tabletop, right? You move up 6 inches, or you'd run them, so on average 9 inches, and then your opponent would mow them down, and you'd remove from the front, effectively moving them back several inches. And you would do this for 2 or 3 turns. Move them up, they get mowed down, move them up, they get mowed down, move them up, they get mowed down, especially, and then if you're happening to get close enough to your opponent, you can call the Wah, and then you can assault in, and then you get overwatched. And back then, Overwatch was extremely powerful, and everyone could Overwatch, and you would get mowed down. So depending on the games, I remember there were games where if I was playing against a Shooty Tau list, or a Shooty Space Marine list, a Shooty Astra Militarum list, back then they were called Imperial Guard, you could seriously, your opponent would get like 4 rounds of shooting before you got into close combat with your Ork boys, and by that point you were basically blown off the table. it was very tough. And in a couple other editions, it's been pretty challenging as well. The problem, it's happened where the way that the Codex really wants to play isn't the same as how the game favors, right? And I remember back in the day, it was actually my most hated video, was my ORK Codex review of 6th edition, because the Codex really wanted you to bring Green Tide, but Green Tide was not compatible with the way that the game was being played in a competitive or a fun environment because of that Overwatch, because of the mode down, and you have to remove the front models. It just wasn't compatible. You could play it, but you would just spend your entire time moving and removing models and never really doing much, to be honest. This is not that, right? This is, I have to believe, the strongest ORK Codex ever written. This has to be as well the strongest 10th edition codex. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe Chaos will beat this. I don't know. This is definitely stronger than the Tau. This is definitely stronger than Space Marines and Tyranids. I've played them since this codex came out. And Dark Angels, definitely not. Like this to me is really, really strong of a codex. Which means, of course, it's going to get some crazy win rates for the next 2 to 3 months, and then nerf hammered into the ground in the next balanced data slate. Let's not kid ourselves here. GW's been balancing, and I know which units are already going to get hit with the nerf hammer, probably, the rules especially. We'll see. But this codex is incredibly strong. So if you're an Ork player and you're a competitive Ork player, enjoy the next 3 months. I think you're going to have a great time, and then prepare to get nerfed into the ground. There is not one, but 2, and arguably 3 incredible detachments in this codex out of the 5. All 5 of them are fun, but for competitiveness, 2 or 3 are really strong. And so I've gotten a few games under my belt. I've played 3 games so far with this codex, 2 Green Tides and 1 Dread Mob, because I really wanted to try the Dread Mob list. Why did I stick with those 3? Because those 2 specific detachments was, I have the models right now for those ones. You know, there's the standard one from the data slate, which is a good general-ish one, not the most competitive, as the general ones aren't usually. There's War Horde, so that's the general one. There's the Big Hunt, which is very cool. I look forward to doing that one in the future. That's the one that's all Beast Snega boys. I don't have any Beast Snega boys at the moment, right? They're in my painting challenge that I'm going to be starting in about a month or so. My Ork painting challenge is going to include a lot of Beast Snegas, and I'm looking really forward to building my Beast Snegas and playing the Big Hunt, regardless of how it is at that time. I do find that the special rule, the more I think about it, it's a very situational special rule where you call your target, basically, and it has to be a character or a monster or a vehicle or the warlord. It's very situational, and depending on your opponent's list, it may be completely useless. Some of the stratagems are cool, but I just really look forward to running a Beast Snega list. I really do love the Beast Snega boys and the Swig Rider boys and all the cool things. A Killer Rig or a Hunter Rig. They're just so cool. Can't wait to try them out. But again, I haven't tried them yet. Call to Speed is very cool too, but I don't have a lot of the vehicles, right? I never ran buggy heavy lists. I've seen them, I've played against them. I just don't have a lot. I have like one of each. I don't have a lot to make it really worthwhile. And of course, I ran the Dread Mob list. I absolutely love it. It would have been so cool if my Grot tanks were still alive today. Yeah. The Green Tide, of course, ran it. And Bully Boys, which I'll talk about in a moment. I have not run it. I have some of the ingredients to really make it worthwhile, but I don't have the main ingredients, so I haven't tried it yet. But what I love about this codex especially, okay, previous codices as well have focused on clans. Some have focused on detachments, some have focused on clans. The previous 2 would focus on clans. So if you were running a clan, you know, there's, for those Ork players out there, the non-Ork players, there's usually 5 or 6 big clans. The Goths, which are the black and white checkered guys, they were really into close combat, so their rules were always close combat focused. They have Gothskull Thraka, and Gothskull Thraka would be the one who would lead them, typically in a thematic battle. There are the Evil Sons, which are the speedy guys, of course. They like to go zoom, zoom, right? So they would be the vehicles. You have the Death Skulls, which are my favorite detachment, of course. They're kind of mirrored after the Braveheart Scottish orcs. Blue paint on their face. They like to steal stuff. It was always funny. And usually they'd have a good invul save and get to reroll, which was really cool. They were very strong for a while. There's Bad Moons, which are really shooty focused. So they were all like reroll 1s to hit from shooting attacks. They were amazing with Ludas for a very long time. And there were like Snake Bites. Cool. Which one am I forgetting? That might be all of them. Whatever, yeah. And for me, I was a Death Skulls player through and through. And what happened though, like with Space Marines, where people kind of got pigeonholed. And if they didn't like to be pigeonholed in their play style, they would be like, these are blue Goths. And then paint Gospel Threka blue. These were red Goths. These were red Death Skulls. These are, red Bad Moons. And each one has a color. So it just made no sense where you look at the table and be like, all right, clearly these are Death Skull orcs, but you're running them as Goths. Or these are Bad Moon orcs, you're running them as Death Skulls, and vice versa, because you got pigeonholed into a specific play style favoring specific models that maybe you didn't want to play that specific style for that particular game. Or if you were bringing to a tournament, some detachments were stronger than others, right? The Goths were typically the strongest in the previous edition. Death Skulls were the strongest for a long time too, and then they got nerfed. Used to be able to roll 1 reroll to hit, 1 reroll to wound, and 1 reroll for damage. And it was really nasty on like a Death Dread that had the custom Mega Blasta, or the Morkanaut, or the Gorkanaut, or just something with a very strong gun that you really wanted to hit. They do a lot of damage. And I remember I won a tournament several times running like at my general Dread mob list because of all the rerolls, and they were really strong. And they also had invulnerable saves because they were Death Skulls. This codex focuses back on detachments, and detachments removes that stigma. So I can run my Death Skulls any way I want. I can bring Gospel Threka to lead my Death Skulls, which makes no sense from the lore, but whatever. For a game-wise, awesome. Now, will I be running Gospel Threka if I'm pronouncing him correctly? Everyone corrects me on this, whatever. No, because I don't have him. I don't have the big model at the moment. Will I be getting him? Maybe. I don't know. He doesn't seem to match my what I really want to do and bring, but you can bring any type of list you want. So you can have Goths, you can have Death Skulls, you can have Bad Moons, and you can play any style you want, which is phenomenal. And as I mentioned, there are 3 detachments that really jump out from this codex. The first one, which has had some amazing early success, is Bully Boys. The reason being is with Bully Boys, it's all themed around war bosses, around knobs, and around your lead guys, but it's war bosses and knobs, essentially. And it's very strong, and what it does is it gives you a second Wa. And the Wa, obviously they can, helps them get into close combat, increases their attacks, increases the strength of their weapons, and it gives other things. Like for Mega Knobs, it gives them a 4 Feel No Pain during that turn. And so it's very crazy focused on war bosses, knobs, Mega Knobs. And once again, you can always attach a knob to a squad, a war boss to a squad to give that squad rule, which is crazy. It's been very strong so far. In fact, Mega Knobs seem to be the common ingredient among many competitive lists. Mega Knobs are being spammed in Green Tide. Mega Knobs are being spammed in Dread Mob. Mega Knobs are being spammed, obviously, in Bully Boys. No, I haven't seen many lists for Cult of Speed or the main index detachment, or of course, you wouldn't bring you could bring Mega Knobs in the Big Hunt, for example. You could. Just it doesn't really fit the theme, but you can bring it once again. I just haven't seen a lot of lists so far with the Big Hunt. It seems like it's just a generic breakdown of all the Beast Snega Boys. Beast Snega Boys are really good too. Among all the detachments, of course, Grots seem to be very preferred, like Gretchen, because you can bring like 20 of them, hide them on an objective. Awesomeness. Mega Knobs are the linchpin of this codex, and as well as, I guess, war bosses and mega armor and war bosses in general. Mega Knobs are the common ingredient amongst all competitive lists. So right now, people are bringing Mega Knobs on spam, and I made a video a little bit ago talking about costs, and I got messages like, that's a weird analogy, but literally look at the competitive list that people are forming right now for Orks, and it's like 15 Mega Knobs, and I didn't think out loud. When I made the video, I wasn't thinking about running 5, because it didn't make any sense to me run a squad below max that you pay for max. That seems to be the way people are doing it. 5 Mega Knobs in a truck seems to be the common ingredient. Otherwise, 5 Mega Knobs or 4 Mega Knobs with a Big Mech in Mega Armor if you're running, the Dread Mob detachment. But people are running groups of Mega Knobs in just swarms. In swarms. And so that's cool. But I'm not running Mega Knobs, because I don't want them. I'm not buying them. They're too expensive. As I mentioned in my previous video, they're $85 for 3, and really you can't buy 1 box. You have to buy 2 to 6 boxes, depending on how many Mega Knobs you want to run, or even 7 boxes. And I just don't have that kind of money right now that I'm going to spend on Mega Knobs, because I have already 200 Ork Boys beside me, right there, that I need to paint in the next 3 to 6 months. I'm not going to add any more Mega Knobs, maybe down the road, but what I'm predicting is going to happen, of course, is that they're going to be the first thing GW goes for. Expect a point increase. I'm going to expect a change to the Feel No Pain. I'm going to guess. This is my guess. Don't quote me on this, just a guess. They're going to change the 4-up Feel No Pain to a 5-up Feel No Pain on the balanced status slate for the Water. That alone will make them a lot less survivable. But again, Bully Boys allows you to take 2 WAs. So basically people are calling WA turn 2, WA turn 3, and you can just keep your Mega Knobs alive, right? That's pretty crazy with 3 squads of Mega Knobs, 2-up armor, 4-up Feel No Pain, incredibly survivable. I've run knobs in all my games. I ran knobs in a truck, and they did well. They hit hard, but of course most games my opponent just shot up the truck that had the knobs in it. I ran knobs with a Warboss, and the truck always died turn 1 because my opponent was always like, that truck has the knobs in it, I'm killing that truck. I ran, one of my lists, I ran a Green Tide list where I ran 120 boys. One of my Green Tide lists, I ran 90 boys, which was 3 squads of 20 and 3 squads of 10 in trucks. I prefer the on foot 20, I think is stronger. I like it more because the trucks seem to get congested and die really quickly. My opponent would just pop the trucks. I love Green Tide. I personally love Green Tide. It's so thematic. The only thing I don't miss is just removing 120 boys off the table and then cleaning up the mess afterwards. In a tournament, it would take a lot of time. But I love Green Tide. And having 5-up invulnerable save is just huge. Reroll 1s if there's a squad above 10, which I was running. And what really keeps them alive, I find, is the toughness 5. So a 5-up toughness, toughness 5, with a 5-up invulnerable save, really keeps them alive because most things are wounding on 4s or 5s. Very few things that you're firing at the Ork Boys are going to be wounding on 3s, right? If you have las cannons, plasma cannons, things that are heavy, shooting at an Ork Boy with a 5-up invulnerable save, you're winning. That's a good thing. Mark my words, that is a good thing. Because that means that your opponent is wasting extreme high firepower on something that you have a 5-up invulnerable save reroll 1s, right? That's not bad. 5 toughness with a 5-up invulnerable save is huge, and I loved it. I do find that the Slugga Choppa Boys are better than the Shoota Boys. Very rarely do the Shootas ever do a lot of damage, but the Slugga Choppa Boys definitely did a lot of damage, and they tied up people for games. I played a game against Dark Angels, against the Lion, and a squad of 20 boys assaulted the Lion, and they did some damage. Eventually they died, but the knob with what was it? The knob with a power claw did some damage, I remember, and then yeah, eventually they died. But they stayed alive and they tar pitted him for a long time, creating this congestion. And oh, by the way, I should mention, I've won all 3 of my games. I played against Tyranids, Dark Angels, and Leagues of Votann, which I had no idea what Leagues of Votann were capable of. That was the game I felt faced with my dread list, and I just did my own thing and had fun. I ended up winning the game. It was close. Again, 3 maybe most competitive armies, but still, it was pretty fun and competitive on my side. What else did I take away from this? I love the Dread Mob list. I absolutely love the random abilities. I didn't choose any of them because in all 3 of my games, and I really do love this, there's a lot of orky randomness that can hurt you. For example, I ran a squad of 20 boys with Slugga Choppa, with a War Boss, and a Weird Boy. And the Weird Boy has to jump. You roll a dice, on a 1 to 2, they take d6 mortal wounds. On a 4-up, they can teleport around the table. And I ran this in all of my lists for fun. I ran it in all my lists, and every game, oh boy, that to jump did so much damage to my own boys. Sorry, it was on d6 you roll a 1. On a 1 you roll, on a 1 you get mortal wounds. On a 2-up, they teleport. In one game I rolled 2 1s in a row. I know which is rare, but it seemed to happen a lot with me with my Orkness. And some people are running 3 Weird Boys, which increases the chances. It's like a 50-50 turn. And d6 mortal wounds. And so on turn 2, I rolled a 1 and a 5. And on turn 2, so 5 mortal wounds. And then on turn 3, I rolled a 1 and rolled a 4. So it was 9 mortal wounds to my own squad. And they weren't even moving. And it was pretty funny. I love that randomness, and it was hilarious. Dread Mob also has that element of randomness, which is why it can win tournaments. Again, so what people are doing with Dread Mob to make it even more competitive is you grab a bunch of Mega Knobs, you add the Mega Armored Big Mechs into their squads, giving them the abilities, and then you just spam them and run the crazy abilities. Yes. I've never chosen because my hazardous guns hurt like craziness. I lost so many wounds off hazardous already because I like to run custom Mega Blasters on my Death Dreads, and the custom Mega Cannon on my Morkanaut caused some damages, and the Killicans. So in the Killicans, there's 2 rolls, right? You can choose to give them hazardous to get the ability you want, and then there's the shooty power trip, which once again, on a 1 or 2, so every time you shoot them, you roll a dice. On a 1 or 2, d6 mortal wounds. And during that game, I'm not kidding you, I ran 2 squads of 6 Killicans, and I removed 2 or 3 Killicans in that game due to mortal wounds. I rolled a 1 or 2 practically every turn, and then it's like 1 or 2 followed by a 6 or by a 5. And you know what? I thought it was funny. And what it does do is it's fun. I'm there to have a good time. I'm here to have fun. And what it does do is when I'm killing my own guys, it created this laughable situation where at that point I was blowing my opponent off the table with a few shots. It just made it more fun because I'm also blowing myself off the table. Everyone's dying as a result of the orky shooting. That's fun. Right? Maybe not the most competitive because you're killing your own guys, whatever. But it was fun. I love the Morkanaut. I love the Death Dread. I love the Killicans. The power that got the most to me was the sustained hits I found. Did the most. When I got the AP, didn't really affect me because it's only on a critical wound. That one. The 5 or 6 on the rule every time you rolled, because you either get sustained hits, lethal hits, or the extra 2 AP on a critical wound. Right? It's only on a critical wound, so it's a 6 to wound. Woo, right? The sustained hits was really good. The lethal hits was good. The critical wound, the AP one, really didn't come into play. As I said, I didn't think it was going to be a lot of... but yeah, I love this codex, right? So Ork Boys, War Bosses are strong. I love the Big Mechs with the shock attack guns. I have one old school one, as I said, and one really old school one, and I love to attach them with a full squad of Ludas, so 8 Ludas with 2 Spanners. That to me was awesome. I just kept them in the back, kept them safe, and just open fired. The amount of wounds that Big Mechs with the shock attack guns did, I still think the shock attack gun is stronger than the new reiteration of the Big Mech that's in the new box set. Yeah, that has either the custom Mega Blasta or the Tractor Blasta. I still think the shock attack gun is the best one. I love it. I love that one. Boys are amazing. Grots are amazing, and their battle line in the Death Dread mob, which is awesome. The Dread mob, Death Dreads, Killicans, Morkanauts, Gorkanauts. They're all awesome. I love them. They're great. I don't have any Mega Knobs. I just know they're strong. Based on the lists I've seen, based on the reviews I've seen, based on just thinking out loud, Mega Knobs are incredibly strong. So once again, expect them to get nerfed. Yeah. What else? Just the sheer amount of survivability of the Ork boys makes them incredibly strong, and it plays really well in this edition. And what I love is, and again, I don't have 3 weird boys. I only have 1 because I don't like the model. To be honest, I hate the model. It's like my least favorite model that the Orks have is the weird boy. I think they really do need an updated model for it. It's just too busy. I'm not a big fan of the look. Forgive me if I'm wrong. If you're a big weird boy fan of the way they look, awesome. 3 of them attached to 3 squads of 20 boys with a war boss would be extremely powerful because you can just jump across the table, grabbing objectives, and they sticky objectives, right? Which is incredibly strong as well, is the fact they sticky objectives, so you can sticky objectives across the table. It'd be pretty fun, right? You just jump somewhere, grab that, sticky it for next turn, keep going, and so forth. It allows you to really be versatile, be very quick, and grab the secondaries, which is phenomenal. You can, I did that a lot. I grabbed secondaries using them all the time. Of course, there were several games I decided where I just did damage to myself. It happens. I ran Defcopters a couple games. They're fast, they hit hard. I love the rockets, phenomenal. Trucks in general, they die. Trucks, toughness 8, where they have 8 or 9 wounds. They die pretty fast. When your opponent, like again, against Space Marines, they just kept Oath of the Momenting, whatever truck they wanted to kill. Turn 1, they killed the truck, right? I actually looted to death 2 Ludas, my two squads of Ludas killed a squad of Hellblasters. But every time they died, of course, they just supercharged and they killed a truck with all their extra shots, which was pretty funny. They killed a truck dead, and then they killed some of the squad that was inside the truck. Burner Boys, I ran them once. Burner Boys with the Spanner it was like 7 wounds off an old One-Eye. Because the old One-Eye assaulted in, I overwatched, the Spanner hit, wounded, and rolled, got through the armor, 6 wounds. It was amazing. And then the Burner Boys did like 1 or 2 wounds in addition, because they auto hit with their D6 hits, which was phenomenal. What else have I tried that I really like? Is it Boys and Grots are amazing in this codex. I haven't tried a couple other things like Knobs. As I said, I ran Knobs with the War Boss. They hit hard and then they died. I find Ork Boys are just so much more survivable than Knobs, because Knobs are, sure, they have a 4-up armor save, and their toughness 5, 2 wounds. But again, a 4-up armor save is worse than a 5-up invulnerable save against most shooting, and 2 wounds gets eaten very quickly, because anything that's worth dedicating to them, like Hellblasters, destroyed a squad of Knobs because they just supercharge them, right? They go right through the armor and they ate the squad for breakfast. It was really not a challenge. Or anything that does 2 damage eats through Knobs. The Mega Knobs are the stronger one, of course. And of course, people are still talking about like Beast Boss or the specialized Beast Boss. The War Boss and Mega Armor seems very strong. But overall, I love this book. I absolutely love it. Mazrog, sorry, was what I was thinking of. Beast Nega Boys seem like they're going to be pretty good too. But again, most of the lists, I don't have any Beast Nega Boys painted. But boys to me are super strong in the Green Tide, so I would never bring Beast Nega Boys unless I was running the hunting list, right? Their own, the Beast Nega Boys detachment. Because boys, where you can take a squad of boys with a 5-up invulnerable save, not only the turn of the WAD, just in general, 5-up invulnerable save, is just insane. like to me, and reroll ones, which makes them incredibly survivable. And you're like every one of my games, there were still 45, 50 boys still left on the table because my opponent just ran out of firepower. You just whittled down what your opponent could do, and they couldn't deal with that amount of boys, which would then tar pit a lot of units in close combat. I want to run Snekrot. I haven't painted him yet, so I haven't run him in lists. He seems like he'd be a good, annoying target to drop in your opponent's backfield. As I said, Mega Knobs are the best thing in the Codex. Storm Boys and Tank Busters, haven't tried them out yet, don't have them. Ludas I have tried. I love them with a... It doubles the rule anyway, because they have reroll ones, and the Big Mech with the shock attack gun rerolls ones when leading a squad. Flash Skits, haven't run them yet. Cool, they don't have their leader from the past, got removed. The one model, obviously, I really miss the Grot tanks, but the one model being removed entirely from the Codex was the Big Mech with custom force field. I found he really did he made things survivable around him, as well as they removed the force field, of course, from the Morkanaut, which is just vestigial at this point. Commandos, I will be painting up 30 Commandos in the near future. I want to try them out too. And of course, all the Squig Rider boys, I think they're going to be awesome. And that's it. As I said, they're all awesome. I haven't figured out which of the buggies are the strongest in this particular edition yet. Leave comments in the comment section down below of that one. And if the flyers are worth taking, I heard the Blasted Jet isn't worth taking anyway. I have one, I just have to paint it up. Or the Daka Jet. I don't know. And then of course the Morkanaut and the Gorkanaut were a lot of fun. The Hunted Killer Rigs are expensive but cool. And then the Stompa, 800 points still. Can't wait to try him out. I'm going to get him on the tabletop once I've built him up too. But this Codex is incredibly strong because the Ork boys are incredibly survivable. The Mega Knobs are incredibly survivable. They hit hard. You can kind of just swarm your opponent. And the best part is, with the smaller battlefield size of this edition, the rules of this edition, it really does jive well with this Codex. You can actually survive, and you can actually accomplish what you're trying to do. It's not just an endless task of moving up your boys and removing them off the battlefield as they die, right? From the previous editions, it's detachment focus. You can run any kind of army you want from any clan you want, which is amazing. And it's super strong, but it's so much fun. I had fun all 3 games against all 3 opponents. I didn't care about winning or losing. I won all 3 games. Decidedly in one of them. Against the Dark Angels was by far the biggest. I destroyed them. Against Tyranids, it was against the... I ran against a Tyranid list that was the Monstrous Creature Detachment one. And it was tough, because monster creatures are pretty hard against Ork boys. And once again, tar pitted them, killed them. The Ludas with the Big Mech wiped off the board an old one. No, sorry, the old one I died in the end almost entirely due to the Burna boys, but then died later just because of shooting. Killed a Hive Tyrant. Yeah, just killed a lot of stuff that game. It was really fun. And again, just the very few monster creatures. The Norm Emissary, though, could really eat boys for breakfast. That had a lot of attacks. But most Tyranid models just didn't have enough attacks to knock out a squad of boys, right? So it was very easy to target them. That was the list that I ran, the 120 boys. I ran the 90 boys against the Dark Angel player. So that was cool. And it was Dark Angels, but it was Ravenwing heavy. But it also had the Lion, Hellblasters, Azrael, but it was like 18 bikes. And I tied them up in the middle field and just picked them off. Again, bikers just didn't have their strength 4 against toughness 5 Ork boys. Didn't have it, right? Couldn't do much. But I absolutely love this Codex. The second I got it, I wanted to play Orks, which is just amazing. I busted all the Ork boys, and I can't wait to play more games. I'm going to play more games with the other detachments, but of course I'm going to primarily, my favorite detachments anyway are the Green Tide and Dreadmob. They were beforehand, and when I heard about them, I love them even more. They're 2 classic detachments. The Bully Boys I probably will never play because I don't have that many knobs to justify that list. I will eventually run the hunting, the hunting list, But the Beast Nega Boys list, I will definitely try that a few times. Once I get the Beast Nega Boys all painted up, I have tons of Beast Nega Boys to paint up in the near future. Cult of Speed, I can try with the limited amount of vehicles I do have. I could try that list out in the future and see how they do. It doesn't seem like it's the most competitive aspect of the army, but it seems like it could be fun. The Big Hunt is the one I was thinking of, where with all the Beast Nega Boys. I can't wait. And Warhorde's cool too, but Warhorde isn't like Warhorde is the same as the you know, it's the original detachment from this edition. It's not where the fun is. But overall, this is an incredible codex. I didn't think this was going to be that long a video, and now it's 40 minutes. Who cares? This is an incredible codex. I absolutely love it. I think it's not only the best codex of this edition because there are several amazing detachments where you can play and be competitive, but it's also fun, right? I could try any one of these detachments and have a great time, and it's orky. It still fits the flavor of the that the codex is supposed to be. Any codex up to this point so far in this edition maybe has one, maybe two detachments that are very competitive. Maybe there are some, and maybe like one that's fun. This, I could play any detachment and have a great time, and there's 3 of them that are arguably very competitive. There's already been Green Tide List winning tournaments. Bully Boys is destroying tournaments right now, which means they're going to get nerfed. And again, at my local GW, a guy there won the most recent tournament playing Dread Mob, which is very cool. Now, once again, did bring 3 squads of Mega Knobs in that Dread Mob list with big mechs with Mega Armor. That being said, cool. But those are my thoughts on this. This is my random thoughts about how orky this codex is. I absolutely love it. But most importantly, what do you think of this new ORK Codex? Are you as excited as I am? Do you love it? Do you hate it? What do you think is the strongest? What do you think is the weakest? What do you think so far? Leave comments in the comment section down below. I love your opinions, and I want to hear them all in the comment section down below. And as always, please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you already haven't done so. Really helps a lot, and hit that bell so every time I make a new video, you see it. But thank you so much for watching this video and staying till the end if you're already still watching it. And as always, huge shout out to today's sponsor, Into the AM. Amazing shirts. Till next time, this is Jay saying, happy painting your orcs.